Hello, hello, hello. Thank you again for joining another Tuesday's Talks with Tammy. I'm so excited to be here with you today. It was questionable that I would sit here before you today. I kind of woke up today a little lethargic, questioning my ability to get up and share today, kind of going through the ins and the outs of making sure that I am on my assignment. But then God spoke to me a powerful word that I'd like to share with you today, and I'll give people a little bit more time to come in. Hey, Phaedra, if you are catching the replay, thank you and welcome. And I have a very exciting word for you. And it's almost like an oxymoron because the topic that God gave me today is letting your silence speak for you. Letting your silence speak for you. So it seems like that's saying, good to have you back. I'm glad to see you here, live and in living color, Phaedra. Letting your silence speak for you is like one of those arguments you have within yourself. Do I talk? Do I not talk? Do I remain silent and let people think what they want? That's what I want to discuss today. So as we're giving people a little bit more time to come on in, again, welcome. I want to thank every one of you that join me every week and take out time from your busy schedule. Hey, Edward. Take out time from your busy schedule to join me every Tuesday for Tuesday's Talk with Tammy. I'm so excited today. Again, today God has given me a word on letting your silence speak for you. Because sometimes we're so programmed. We're programmed into always explaining ourselves. We're so programmed into giving an answer to every question that people have about us. We feel like we're obligated to answer every question. You know, what people think about us. What did they hear about us? Let me go and right this wrong because whatever somebody said about me, they got it wrong. So I need to go explain myself. Nope. God says sometimes there is power in your silence. Sometimes you got to let people think what they want to think. Hey, Roberta, you got to let people think what they want to think. You got to let people draw their own conclusions and don't go back and change it. Sometimes that's how we get distracted off our own personal journey. We get distracted off what God has called us to do because we're so busy trying to right somebody else's wrong, change somebody else's perception of us, trying to be everybody's friend, trying to be right in everybody's eyesight. There are scriptures. The Bible says over in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 7, there's a time to tear, there's a time to tear, there's a time to be silent, and there's a time to speak. Okay, so there'll come a time when you can speak, or when you need to speak, or when you need to express yourself, or when you need to explain yourself. Then the Bible also says there's a time to be quiet. And then over in Psalms 131 and 2 says, I have calmed and quieted my soul. Your soul is your mind, your will, your emotions. Sometimes you have to quieten your own soul. You have to quieten your own thoughts of you. There's power in being quiet. There's power because sometimes being quiet gives you that one-on-one introspect within yourself. That one-on-one time within you to look deep within yourself. Because sometimes we find ourselves trying to confront an issue or trying to give an answer to everybody when we don't really know the answer ourselves. Sometimes we find out they were right. When other times we know that they are wrong. But when you are quiet, when your soul is quiet, you'll be ready to give every man an answer. And sometimes that answer is quietness. Sometimes that answer is not saying anything. And it's power in that. Sometimes your greatest strength is in your ability to shut up. Sometimes your greatest strength is in your ability to shut up. Just be quiet. And I know we got a lot to say, and I know we got a lot we want to say. And I know sometimes we feel like we have now been liberated. Hey, Raquel. Sometimes we feel like we have been so liberated that when it come up, it got to come out. But sometimes we got to realize that our greatest strength is knowing when to shut up. Sometimes our greatest strength is in our ability to shut up, right? Hey, Iris, because, you know, we, if you're like me, and I'll give you a backstory. If you're like me, as a child, I was a very quiet child. I mean, I was so quiet as a child, to the point of almost a mute. I was so quiet as a child to the teachers questioned it. But now, if you've been with me for a while and you've heard the different stories and the backstories of where I am now, you would know, as a child, I experienced plenty of trauma even before the age of 10. So there were some traumas that I experienced before the age of 10 that shut me down. Hey, Sister Glenda, it shut me down to the point of what doctors would now call dissociation. That I would disassociate with life, with people, with places. I did not want to be involved. I could look at you, ask me a question, and go mute and not answer it. Because some things had happened and that I was sworn, for lack of a better word, threatened to silence. Hey, Sister Broadway, you can experience things that you are threatened to silence and you not say anything. But do you know that your silence still has a voice? Did you know that your silence can still speak volumes? Did you know that your silence can still tell the story? Yes, God gave me that on today because he took me back to the time when I was a fourth grader. I was a fourth grader. And at this time that now I've, just like I just said, I was a very quiet child, and I would go to school and more so a loner. And I had this one teacher in fourth grade, Miss Fowler. Miss Fowler recognized the volume of my silence. Miss Fowler heard the noise of my silence. Whereas she was astute enough to know that there's something going on with this little girl and we need to get her some help. As a fourth grader, my fourth grade teacher recognized it. Now, they did all sorts of things, and I ended up in speech therapy, and they thought, hell to Bennett, and needing to speak with someone. But it was because of past trauma that I had shut down. But there was noise in my silence. Hey, Kendrick, there was noise in my silence that it helped a teacher recognize that this child needs help. Have you ever been one of those parents where, you got a couple of kids, 2 or 3 kids in there, and then all of a sudden you say, wait a minute, they too quiet. They too quiet. Let me go in here and check on them because they too quiet, right? Hey, Bailey, they're too quiet. And see, so that lets you know that there is the lack of noise is distracting. The lack of noise is disturbing, right? I know a lot of people want to say different things. A lot of people want, I got something to say, and I'm gonna, give her a piece of my mind or give him a piece of my mind. And I got so much I want to talk about. But sometimes God says there is power in your silence. Because guess what? I was obedient when I was sworn to silence as a child. But there was a teacher who recognized my silence was not normal. And through that, hey, Jackie, and through my silence, I was able to get help. Hey, Marquita, I was able to get help from strangers, from teachers, from therapists who saw my silence as a warning, who saw my silence as a cry for help, who saw my silence as an uncomfortable child who needs to talk and who has disassociated herself with life because of fear, because of trauma, right? Okay. Also, the Bible says over in Proverbs 17:27, the one who has knowledge uses words with restraints. Hey, Ann, because sometimes we can know a lot of things. We can know a lot of things. We can know what's going on, but because of your wisdom, because of the wisdom, you can use your knowledge of words as restraints. You can hold back. Sometimes God just wants us to observe and not talk. So we need to pray. When we're praying, we need to pray and ask God for wisdom. When to talk, when to be quiet. Because again, there is strength in your ability to shut up. As a child, going through the different things, I made a strategic choice to be quiet. Because I knew the circumstances on the other side of me talking. Hey, Sister Alma, there were circumstances, there were consequences on the other side of me talking and voicing my opinion. So as a fourth grader, as a 10-year-old who had already endured a number of different traumatic experiences, I chose to shut down. It was a strategic choice. Now, part of it, because I was only 10, part of it was my body shutting down as a mode of protection to protect me, right? And let's go into some of this. Not saying anything and simply remaining silent can convey an even stronger message than running our mouth. Right? Because I know sometimes we just want to talk. We run our mouths, and then sometimes it's the wrong time. It's the wrong time. It's the wrong place. It's the wrong person. And we have to be quiet. I had a friend, one of our best friends, Ian Kelly and I had a best friend who married before us. And my best friend, she'd married a professional football player. And she had a mouth. She could talk. Boy, she could talk. I mean, if you said something to her, she was always ready to give you an answer. She could get back and forth with you at any given time. And her husband was quite a bit older than her. And he was abusive, right? But Jerry could talk. And I tried to tell this story without tearing up. Back in the summer of 1998, I remember her sharing with me some things that were going on in her life and in her marriage. At that time, I believe I was only 25. I had no knowledge of giving sound advice as far as marriage goes. I had not been married at the time, and I had no knowledge of giving sound advice. However, I was engaged at that time in getting ready to be married. So she was the one on the giving end of giving the advice, and her advice was, don't do it. It's going to be like this, and this, because she was telling her own experience. However, some of her advice was like this. Honey, if I was you, when he do this, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say that. And what she said, she really did in life. If he came home, she would, question where he had been and what he was doing and different things like that. And he did not like her form of questioning. He was one of those types that's, when he say be quiet, he wants you to be quiet. Well, Jerry was the kind that says, no, I'm going to keep talking and you can't make me shut up. Long story short, a few days before Christmas of that same year, he had taken her life. He had taken her life. And through strangulation. That has always stuck with me as a very hurtful yet powerful message. Although Jerry would tell me verbally what to say, what not to say, what she would do if she was me, her loudest message to me came after her death. Because I too began to experience the same things that she had experienced. Almost similar scenarios with the type of people we had married at the time. And I began to shut down again. Like that little fourth grader. I began to shut down throughout the abuse. I began to get quiet. Yes, Raquel. She actually was one of my maids of honor in my wedding. And ever so often, her death pierces me. When I want to get about it, when I want to get loud, when I want to run my mouth and go back and forth with people. Thank you, Vijay. When I want to talk out of turn, when I don't want to quieten my soul, like the Bible tells me, I often think of the message that Jerry left after her death. That there is power in your silence. And sometimes it's best to let your silence speak for you. I remember going through the same types of situation and the same types of abuse. But when I found my voice, I didn't want to lose it again. And even when people would say, be quiet, just be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Hey, Michelle, when people say, be quiet, be quiet. And I would know, I'm going to talk, I'm going to tell, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And everything that I wanted to say didn't need to be said. That's right. Every battle is not for me to fight. And, but because I was that little girl that thought I had been suppressed, once I finally found my voice, hey, Rhonda, once I finally found my voice, I didn't want to lose it again. But I did not seek wisdom in every area. I did not seek wisdom. So I don't care if I was being choked and I had both hands around my neck. I was going to get the last word in. I was not wise enough at the time to just let my silence speak for me. Okay? And I'm going somewhere with this, and I'm taking my time with this because I want to be very careful how I say it. Just because, this week I was scrolling through, and there was something that was happening in Arkansas where this young 4-year-old was being abused. And after hearing the guy tell the story about the little 4-year-old being abused by family members, her mother said that the little girl shut down. Although she was 4 and knew how to talk at that time and knew how to use the bathroom at that time by herself, after the abuse, she reverted back to being a baby. She reverted back to urinating on herself. She reverted back to wetting the bed. She reverted back to not talking. That's right, Phaedra. Sometimes you got to lose to win. And it took some time. It took some time for the little girl to start back talking again and telling about her abuse. I kind of felt, when I was listening to the story, I felt it was so much of that story that resonated with me till it brought me to tears. Because sometimes you can be so victimized till you're brought to silence. Hey, Asia, You're so victimized till you brought to silence. And you want to champion that thing and begin to talk. Because see, remember, Miss Fowler helped me find my voice. My 4th grade teacher helped me find my voice, even though it was through speech therapy. It was, come on, we gotta pull this out of this little girl. She has something to say. Something is causing her to become mute. We gotta pull it out, right? And once I found my voice, I began to talk. Now, when we fast forward into my friend being murdered, and it wasn't her fault because she ran her mouth. Now, we'll never say that. We'll never say that she got killed because she didn't know how to be quiet. I will never try to victimize the victim and say it's her fault because she's being abused. Hey, Barbara. However, I learned a very valuable message or a very valuable lesson in my friend being murdered. And I knew that I had to set a watch on my tongue. There were certain things that I needed to say, or I thought I needed to say, that didn't have to be said. I found out that I was saying more with my silence than I was with my tongue. I was saying more with my silence. I remember that as I was getting ready to pack up and leave the abusive relationship for months, I would pack bags and boxes for months without saying a word. My silence was telling the story. I would, I don't know if I want to say this, but I'll say it anyway. I would lock my door and not let him in because my silence was telling the story. My mouth could cut. My words could cut. But God was showing me a better way. And in my silence, I was not only protecting myself, but I was protecting my children. I was protecting even the journey to my freedom. Because God was giving me the wisdom and showing me the power of silence. Sometimes the absence of words can carry the weight, can carry more weight than any spoken conversation that you could ever have. Because guess what? Every time that person would come in and see those boxes packed, see me rolling that tape out there and see me stacking those boxes up against the corner, it spoke volumes. She's tired. It spoke volume that it's almost over. It spoke volumes that she's serious this time, right? So I want to encourage you, because sometimes even being silent is preserving your dignity. I'm going to let that sink in. Sometimes being silent is preserving your dignity. What am I saying? Because sometimes we say stuff that we regret after we say it. You ever said anything, went off on somebody, and you got in the car, you got in the bed that night, and you said, man, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, boy. They thought I was a different person. And what did I say that for? Hey, Philip, what did I say that for? I shouldn't have said that. You know, we get regretful. Hey, Carla, and praying for you, Carla, with the loss of your grandmother as well. So sometimes being quiet is preserving our dignity. We don't want to have to keep saying stuff that we got to keep coming back and repenting from and apologizing from, and I didn't mean it, and now we got to keep explaining ourselves to people. My friend left a 4-year-old daughter here when she passed. She left a 4-year-old daughter here without parents. Her mother had passed, and the father had been sentenced to prison. Sometimes your silence and your ability to shut up can be your greatest strength. When we think about what we have to gain versus what we're willing to lose, we'll be more careful and more prayerful to asking God to set a watch on our tongue. and help us to study to be quiet. Ooh. Study to be quiet. You know, once I got away from one abusive situation, I got into another abusive situation. And from that abusive situation, I got into another abusive situation. And the abuse kept following me. And I didn't know why. And I didn't know how. And even if I was to talk, I didn't really know how to articulate what was going on. I didn't know, number one, who to tell. Hey, Veronica. I didn't know who to tell about the abuse. I didn't know how to tell about the abuse. I didn't know who I could trust with the abuse. I didn't know if telling about the abuse would cause more issues. Anybody ever been there? You want to talk, but you don't know who you can trust. You want to tell, but you don't know if that person gonna twist your story. You don't know if you can trust that person with your story. It's some benefits in being quiet. And I know now it's totally different now. We tell everybody all the time now, if you're going through abuse, you need to talk to somebody, get somebody you can trust with. But there's also some benefits in being quiet. I realized once I got quiet, when I got ready to leave the abusive situation, I realized once I got quiet, not just with him, when I got quiet, the inner peace, I was able to do some introspective work. That means I got a chance to inspect my own inside, to see what was in my heart, to see what kept drawing these abusive people to me. Hey, Sister LaWanda, when I got quiet, God allowed me to see me, right? You know, one of the telltale signs of maturity is to realize that you got some toxic traits too, right? I had to see me. When I got quiet, see, I already knew what he could do and what he would do. When I got quiet, God showed me what I was doing. He also showed me what could be done, right? God also gave me a very, the word that I'm looking for. God gave me a way out that was peaceful. That's the word. God gave me a peaceful way out, where my life had been full as a child, all the way up to an adult. My life had been full of chaotic events. Once I got quiet, there's strength in your quietness. Sometimes there's strength in your silence. Once I got quiet and got instructions from God on how to leave, I made a peaceful exit. Let's see, Philip. I told my caseworker the abuse I was going through. She turned around and told my father, "Oh, that's it right there. That's it right there," without even reading it. I understand, Philip. I understand your pain. Sometimes you're not sure who to tell. And even though as a child, you think I'm telling the right people. I'm telling the right people. And they're turning around and telling the wrong people what I just told them, which is causing more chaos. Yes, Phaedra, we're now holding ourselves accountable. When we mature, we start to hold ourselves accountable. And that's what I did. Once God started showing me, I took the steps to repenting, coming into agreement with God was showing me about me. Yes, I did this. Yes, I provoked this. Yes, I did. It didn't take long for God to open up the door, open up an exit for me to make a peaceful getaway. Hey, Chantel. Getting quiet sometimes can give you a more thoughtful process and a more thorough process. I know sometimes we like to talk it out to people. And those people say, if I was you, I'd do it like this. And if I was you, I would do it like that. Because remember, my friend, Remember my friend, hey, Miss Mona, remember my friend who I had not been married yet. And my friend would come to me and tell me what her husband was doing. And I wasn't in no position to give any advice. And I don't remember giving her any, but I did listen. And sometimes we even giggled about what her rebuttal. Sometimes we even giggled about the smartness of her mouth. Sometimes we even giggled about what all she say she gonna say to him when she got home. Those things later on, once I thought about it, was not funny. Those things were things that I carried around as guilt of not correcting my friend before her demise. Sometimes I carried around the guilt of my silence. However, I have come to realize that her death is not my fault. But if we don't ask God for wisdom of when to talk, when not to talk, when to be quiet, when to talk, the regrets of life can sometimes eat us up. Hey, Kelly, the regrets of life can sometimes eat us up. We need to know the difference in being silent and when and just disassociating ourselves. Because sometimes we say that ain't none of my business. And sometimes God is telling us. He's given us instructions. Hey, Donna, he's given us instructions on what to do, what to say, how to say it. I am now an advocate for abused women and children. Hey, Cora, I am now an advocate for men, women, and children who have been abused. I remember the day that I decided I would no longer be quiet, be silent about the abuse that I suffered as a child. Once I decided I would no longer be quiet regarding that abuse, the people who were talking the loudest to me at the time, they became quiet and distant with me. Now, guess what? When we're talking about silence, there are some people who use their silence as a weapon. Let that sink in. They use their silence as a weapon. So, in other words, I'm going to give you the cold shoulder. I'm going to give you the silent treatment. And you know when I give you the silent treatment, you know what that means, right? See, people, that's what I'm telling you. Sometimes the greatest strength is your ability to shut up. Now, how you use that strength is going to determine the type of heart you have. Now, are you using that strength to protect you? Or are you using that strength to manipulate others? Because sometimes we can be quiet and give people the silent treatment as a manipulation tactic to keep people quiet. And I remember residing within myself that I had been quiet long enough. And once I began to tell my story, I began to lose people who I thought were for me. All along, they were just being with me in order to make sure that I was sworn to secrecy about the things that I had experienced. Sometimes people are only around you to keep their secrets, to make sure that they are protected, to make sure that nothing ever comes out, to make sure that things are still looking good for them. It is liberating. It gives you a sense of freedom to be able not to just tell your story and just be trying to out somebody. But it is liberating, the freedom that comes with being tormented by the silence of wrongdoing. And now you're able to have a voice. And my voice is not to hurt somebody else from the past. My voice is to help those who are still going through what God liberated me from. Philip says he got tired of the beatings. So switched from the fight to beating her like she used to do him. Oh my God. I understand, Philip. You got tired. You got tired. You got tired. And listen, as I'm talking, it not only happens to women. The abuse not only happens to women. We have a man right here. Abuse happens to men. Abuse happens to children. Abuse happens to women. And we sometimes it comes from us, me, being obedient, being open in order for others to get free. I remember laying my life down before God and saying, God, if it's time for me to tell it, open the door for me to tell it. Right before God gave me Tuesday's talk with Tammy. Because I had to reside within myself, or I had to make sure within myself. I'm not just doing this. I cannot and will not try to ruin somebody else's life at the expense of trying to get my freedom, right? But I also knew that I wasn't going to keep keeping somebody else's secret at bay at the expense of me not getting my freedom, right? And because my freedom, my children are free. Because I got my freedom, my grandchildren are free. See, my daughter shouldn't have to go through the same thing that I went through. Her daughter shouldn't have to go through the same thing. My other granddaughters shouldn't have to go through the same thing that I experienced. Because why? Because now I am free. And whom the Son has set free is free indeed. Amen? That's right. And, once I got liberated, I remember my daughter coming to me, telling me that some things that happened to her, I had a trauma response. Some things happened to my daughter that happened also to me in the past that I had suppressed, that I was sworn to secrecy about, that I was told what happened to me was not going to carry over into this generation and the next generation and the next generation. It was not going to happen, right? And this young man who tried to take advantage of my daughter was a young man who was taken in and given a place to stay, who was taken in and was given, food, clothes, a family. This young man was taken in as an act of love from my parents. And then he attempted to violate my daughter. At that time, there was no reasoning with me. At that time, there was no, just pray about it. There was no, let's talk it out. No. I remember going through such things where it was kept quiet. And because it was kept quiet, see, I told you that silence carries power. It just depends on how you interpret the silence. Because when it happened to me and I was told to be quiet, that was a strong rejection. To tell me to be quiet was to reject what I was saying. To tell me to be quiet was to actually say I was lying. To tell me to be quiet was to take off your blanket of protection from me and to leave me open to tell me any and everybody could do those things to me. I was determined that my daughter and my grandchildren would not suffer the same type of abuse. So when that happened, I communicated with the mouth and with the physical, right? I didn't sweep it under the rug. I didn't try to protect the image of the other person at the expense of my daughter losing her dignity, at the expense of my daughter losing trust in me, at the expense of My daughter not being able to trust me with things that were happening to her. Because sometimes we'll do that. We'll lose touch with our own children just because we're trying to keep it quiet around here. We don't want anybody to know the different things that are happening in our life. Hey, Miss Sims. And I was determined that my daughter wasn't going to go through that. I said that day, when my daughter confided in me about what had happened, I said that day, she needs to see me react this way. She needs to see me react this way because she needs to know that somebody cares about her. I don't know who I'm talking to today, but you're going through something, and sometimes you may have swept some stuff under the rug because you don't want anybody to know that your little perfect house is not really perfect. But God said today you need to go ahead and pull the cover off. Pull the cover off. You're protecting someone and neglecting someone else. You're protecting someone that don't need no protecting. And you're neglecting the person that God has put in your life to protect. Hey, Kathleen. If that is you, it's not too late. It's not too late for you to repent. Get it right. Not only with yourself, but with your child. Get it right. If it's not your child, with your sister, with your brother, with your cousin. However it goes, we've got to stop the generational curse. And I know there's silence and there's a power in silence. That's why the offender always tries to make you be silent. Because there's power in it. Because as long as you be quiet, the more he'll go or she'll go offend the next person, the next person, the next person. Because why? Ain't nobody telling, ain't nobody talking. Your silence is protecting the offender. I remember having so much anger. I remember having so much bitterness. I remember having so much malice in my heart because I felt like nobody protected us. My silence at that time was a disassociation from life. It was a disassociation from authority. It was, my silence was saying that I didn't trust anybody because the people that I was supposed to trust was not protecting me. They were neglecting me. And so it took a long, long, long time to forgive. There's nothing I'm not bragging on that. I'm just telling you the truth. Now, if some of you have gone through some things and you were able to heal overnight, that's your story. God has given me a platform to tell my story that it took realistically. Sometimes to even talk about it now, it hurts. Sometimes to even talk about it now, it brings me to tears. Some days I'm still neglected. Some days I'm still at a point where people are trying to silence me. I remember when I got free from the abusive marriage, when I got free and I remember me and my children had left and gotten our own place, and it was so much peace, so much peace. But guess what? It was so peaceful till it was disturbing. It was so quiet till it was disturbing because my life had never been peaceful. I had become accustomed to the chaotic life. I had become accustomed to chaos. So guess what? At nighttime, hey, Miss Vicky, at nighttime, when it was time to go to sleep, I could not go to sleep without the TV being on. Why? The noise. I don't care what was on TV. It wasn't about what was on TV. It was the noise. That's right around the time for release. It was the noise because my life had become accustomed. Hey, Joy, life had become accustomed to chaos. So I could not sleep without noise. So when peace came, it was foreign to me. Now I can go to sleep now. It can be pitch dark because God has delivered me and healed me. That's right. That's right, Donald. Still needed some things going on. Why? I had lived through a 15-year abusive marriage where night after night, come in, turn the lights on, starting trouble, starting physical fights, wanting to argue, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I had conditioned myself to get ready for the fight, get ready for the argument, get ready to be woken up, get ready to, give an answer, get ready to. And so after 15 years, it wasn't easy to just turn that off. This kind come out only by fasting and praying. It took fasting and praying in order for me to get released from that type of lifestyle. It's not a matter of placing the blame. It's not a blame game. It's not a pointing of the finger. It's God, heal me now. Heal me now so that this curse doesn't fall on my children and my grandchildren. That's right. I thank God for releasing me. And guess what? I thank God for releasing me from this situation or from that situation, and death didn't have to be the one to take me out of the situation, right? Because I just told you the story about my friend. And our stories were so alike. We had mirroring stories. We were both married to athletes. We were both married to abusive men. We were both married to controlling men. We both kind of had a little smart mouth. Hers was smarter than mine because I had just learned how to start talking. I had just started being able to verbally release mine. Her story ended a different way. Her story ended in death. God opened the door for me. I dare not let that door stand open and not walk through it. Hey, Kim, I dare not have let God open that door for me to walk out of that and not help somebody else. I dare not take the opportunity to where I see so many women and men in abusive relationships, whether they're relationships, friendships, or whatever kind of ships they are, and not share my story with you that when God opens up the door for you to go, sometimes your strength to shut up is your greatest strength. There was a time to talk it out. There was a time to walk it out, right? And if this is the time God is giving you to walk out, walk out. Don't think about what you could have, should have, would have said. Walk out. God will give you peace that surpasses all understanding. I know you probably thinking you can't live without him or can't live without her. God is giving you peace. He will give you peace that surpasses all understanding. You just have to keep your mind on him. You have to keep your mind asking God which way. I had to have a strategic plan on how to get out. I had to have I grew up in a God-fearing family. I grew up in a Bible-believing family. But these instructions that God had given me, he gave them directly to me. It wasn't, hey, Rita, it wasn't one specific person who could tell me, hey, Albert, there wasn't one specific person who could tell me how to get out of the situation other than God. Because I had seen the situation before me, but I never seen anyone get out of it, right? I had lived through a situation like that, but I never witnessed a person come out on the other side of the situation victorious. So God gave me a strategic plan, and the number one The first step was for me to start being quiet. I had a lot to say. But step number one was God was telling me, first of all, you're going to have to start shutting up. You got to be quiet. Hey, Annie. And once I started being quiet, God started giving me step 2, step 3, step 4. Each step was strategic in order for me to leave the situation peacefully. God has given me a peaceful life after that. Yes, some things have come up, and that's part of life. But the life that I lived from the age of 40 on back, that chaos from that life of 40 on back could not follow me after I followed God's strategic instructions on how to be quiet and get peace. Okay? So, let me just end with this. As a form, remember I said as a form of emotional abuse, sometimes people will give you the silent treatment. Now, it could be a form of emotional abuse, or it could also be a form of that person not knowing how to communicate. That's another reason why we need to ask God for wisdom. Sometimes we say, oh, he just being quiet. Or she just being quiet. She don't want to say nothing. Sometimes that person is not well versed or well skilled on how to communicate. And when they do finally start talking, sometimes it ends up being an argument. Sometimes they, end up with elevated voice, and then the time you thought was a good time to talk, not really a good time for them. So you have to pray and ask God for those open doors. Sometimes that door will not ever open again to verbally communicate. That's that time where God say, use your silence as a weapon for a peaceful exit. Now, I don't know why I'm talking about this today, but maybe it's somebody that's on here because I did pray before I started this today that God, the people that need to hear this, let them log on and hear this today. If that's you and you're going through something and you don't even know how to get out of it, I promise you, I'm not afraid to walk you through it. You can inbox me, hit me up in Messenger. Just let me know. Say, I need you to pray with me. We got to walk through this. I've been trying to, get out of this. It doesn't have to be an abusive situation. It could be verbal abuse. It could be emotional abuse. It could be abuse on your job with authority. You could be the child. It does not matter. If there's a situation that God has already told you it's time for you to move on. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. And we'll still try to blame it on the other person. That other person not even holding you back anymore. It's just you. It's just you because you're wanting change. But you're wanting that person to change. And sometimes the change comes through you. You have to be the person willing to move on. You have to be the person willing to change. You have to be the person willing to walk out that door when God opens up that door. Okay? So there's power in silence. The absence of words can carry more power than you. I know you got a lot to say and a lot you want to get off your chest, but God says the absence sometimes of those words will carry more weight than you saying them. Because why? We want a peaceful resolve. And sometimes our words can stir up some stuff. We also, remember, we want to preserve our dignity. We don't want to have to come back and explain nothing we said. We don't want to have to come back and repent to that person. And I'm sorry for this and I'm sorry for that. We want to be able to obey God and make a peaceful exit. Remember, if I have helped you today and you need more help on the side, don't hesitate to inbox me, reach out to me. God has given me a purpose. He's also given me a plan. He has given me a mandate to not only help women, but women, men, and children who have gone through abuse, who have been silenced, by their abuser, who are afraid because they cannot trust people. and you've tried to tell somebody before, and you've heard your business out there by somebody that you didn't even tell it to. God wants to give you somebody that you can trust. Whether it's just that you're soliciting prayers or a one-on-one. I believe in walking in purpose. Now remember, if you did not come from a healthy family should come from you. Don't let it stop with you. Don't let it stop with you. Donna, I'm going to give you that as soon as I get off, okay? Don't let it stop with you. Your children need you. Your grandchildren need you. Your children need you to break the curse. Your grandchildren need you to break the curse, right? Me and my daughter had a conversation this morning, and she had did something yesterday that she thought that she could not do. She did it yesterday, and it hurt. This morning, she woke up, and she was free as a bird. And she said, Mama, it didn't take long for this to leave me. And I said, girl, you breaking the curse. You breaking the curse. You breaking the curse. And that gave me so much pleasure to know. Because sometimes it's in our obedience that we break the curse from our children and their children. And it don't have to keep following them. The things that I went through, just because my mother may have gone through it and her mother may have gone through it, don't mean that we have to keep going through those things. Okay? The curse can be broken. And whatever the curse is, whether you keep getting into abusive relationships, whether, you keep being attracted to, the wrong people, whether, you don't know how to bridle this tongue. My whole family got a smart mouth. We did that. It don't have to keep going that way. It don't have to keep being that way. Hey, Sonia, it don't have to keep being that way. We can break the curse. And that's why I say that every Tuesday. If you didn't come from a healthy family should come from you. Okay? I'll talk to you guys next Tuesday. I'm so glad that you all joined me. If you came in late, catch the replay. I'll leave it up there. It'll live right there on my page. You can catch it at any time. Matter of fact, share it with 5 other people. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Look, and also, Donna, I'm going to send you my Cash App. I appreciate you. Bye-bye.